This video is sponsored by Wanderlust. So you're ready to start filming YouTube videos or course content. Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey there, my name is Tyler Harrington and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey there, my name is Tyler Harrington and welcome back to my YouTube channel. What does that process actually look like? It's not very often that we talk about what the actual mechanics are of sitting down in front of a camera and filming. Are we filming the entire thing in one take? What does it actually look like? How do you plan? How do you prepare? All these things and more I'm gonna cover in this video right now. Hey there, my name is Tyler Harrington. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. On this channel, we love to talk about content creation, technology, and how to make money using both. So today we're gonna break down the process of filming a video. Now, a lot of times this is kind of something people don't really think about because you just see the final product and you see what the actual video looks like, but you don't really know what all actually goes into creating that, into saying all those words out loud in front of a camera to then get them into an editor and ultimately onto YouTube. So that's what we're gonna cover today. What does that process actually look like? So for me, the process all starts with writing an outline or a script. Now, this is gonna be kind of personal preference based on your personality and how your brain works the best. But for me, whenever I write an outline for a video, I'm really just trying to get down the major ideas that I have in my head and worrying more about the order and just making sure I have everything written down. I personally don't like to script things out verbatim because I just know that when I go to actually deliver it to camera like this, I'm never gonna be able to remember exactly what I wrote down. And I actually end up spending more time worrying about the exact phrasing or exactly what I wrote on my script when I'm trying to deliver it, that it doesn't come across as natural as I would like. And if you write everything down verbatim, you have to spend all the time writing it out verbatim, which takes longer. And then when you go to actually say it, it takes longer to re-say what you actually said. So I find it to be faster, more efficient, and just better for me personally to just write a general outline. So I just do this in Google Doc. I actually have recently just created a template that I use with some of my YouTube clients that I've actually been using for my own YouTube videos that I find really helpful. And just in terms of having some general basic things outlined in terms of, before you start writing the content, having an idea of the title and the thumbnail and when it's going to be posted. And then I have an area on there where I can collect any things I need for B-roll, all sorts of things that I can have in addition to my actual outline of what I'm going to say. So I just try and keep it super brief and just make sure that I have the general points and all the general things that I want to make sure that I cover so I don't forget anything. And that way when I go to film, I can just follow through my outline point by point by point and make sure that I'm not missing any information. Once you have your general outline created and you kind of know what it is that you want to say, it's time to set up all of our gear. Now, I'm not going to cover that in this video. I have an entire video, which I will link up here, talking about a really simple YouTube setup and some of my recommendations if you want some really high quality video and sound without breaking the bank. So definitely go check that video out up here, but you get all your stuff set up, you sit down, and now what? Okay, so this is what the process looks like for me. I sit down in front of my camera, I make sure that all my audio is working, I do some tests, I do some snaps, I make sure that we're not peaking, kind of just make sure that everything is looking good, double check all of my settings, and then I hit record. Once I know that we're rolling and everything is looking good, this is the process, this is what I do. Basically what I'll do is I'll take my outline, I have it on my phone nearby, just like this, and I will look at the first point, kind of look it over, think about it in my mind, think about what I wanna say, set my phone down, look up at the camera, smile, and then I'll say whatever I need to say, okay? So I look at that first point, deliver it to camera, and then if I like what I said, perfect, we just move on to the next point. If I don't like it, if I messed up, if I tripped over my words, whatever, then I will do it again. And then basically all you have to do is just repeat that process over and over again throughout your entire script until you've said everything that you want to say. And hopefully if you've outlined it well and you've included everything you want to talk about, you just go straight through, make sure you hit all your points. If you mess up, again, do it again. If I don't really like the way I said that, or that was too wordy, do it again. And then you just go all the way through till you get to the very bottom and then you're done. Stuff set up, you sit down, now what? Okay, so this is what the process looks like for me. And then I hit record. Once I know that then I will do it again. And then basically all you have to do is just repeat that process. Do it again, and then you just go all the way through till you get to the very bottom, and then you're done. Here are some tips for making sure that this process runs as smoothly as possible. First tip is to keep your sections small. It's easy to try and just run through everything that you have for an entire section, or just as much as you can remember, and just kind of keep going and going and going and going and going. But what ends up happening is you end up rambling, you end up using filler words, you don't really remember what you're gonna say, and then you start getting ahead of yourself and you kind of get all out of order. So the best tip I have is just to keep your section small and just do 1 or 2 points of your outline at a time. Remember, jump cuts are okay. You're probably gonna be covering up the majority of it with B-roll, and just in general on YouTube, jump cuts are pretty accepted as a very normal thing. And people would rather have there be jump cuts than you just rambling on and on and on and on. So it's actually gonna make your editing smoother and your video more concise if you just take it in small chunks. Another tip is gonna be when you do finish talking, make sure that you finish your sentence and you keep looking at the camera for another second or two before you look down. It's really easy to be talking along, thinking about your next point, and you start to look at your script, you start to look down while you're still talking, and this is gonna make editing just a lot more difficult, and it's gonna make those jump cuts even that more obvious, and it's just not gonna be good. So when you finish speaking, make sure that you keep looking at the camera for an extra second or two. Another tip is that if you do mess up, you probably don't have to say that entire section all over again. If you went for about a minute or so and you said a bunch of really great stuff and you mess up at the very end, you don't necessarily have to redo that entire take. If you edit your own stuff, just try and think, okay, if I'm editing this, where was a place where there was sort of a natural pause, a sort of a natural point where I may be able to splice these two things together, back up from there just a little bit, and just start from that point. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to say the entire thing over again. Just try and be a little strategic in where you start back over and go from there. And pro tip would be, if that was in the middle of a sentence, again, start from the start that whole sentence again, or maybe start from the sentence before. And the reason for this is it's hard to match your tone and inflection that you have mid-sentence when you're just starting out. It's gonna be really hard for you to match those things. So if you start a little bit before, wherever, you'll give yourself more room in editing to make a seamless, natural cut, even if you have to re-say a few lines or sentences. Another tip that I like to use, I call the triple clap. And basically what I use this, you can use this for a couple different things. It depends, again, on how your personality works and how you want to do this. But what I like to do is if I need to get my attention, my attention while I'm editing, right? If I need to draw editor Tyler's attention to a specific part of the timeline, right? The timeline's long, and sometimes you might say something like, oh, add this part to the beginning, or like, oh, this was a do-over, or whatever. What I'll do is I'll clap 3 times like this. And then what happens is when I look at my timeline, I'll see 3 little lines, like little spikes on my audio on my timeline. And that tells me, editor Tyler, oh, I either need to look at this more closely or need to make sure that I hone in on this point or whatever. So I will actually zoom in and pay attention to it instead of accidentally just cutting it out and not realizing I cut out something important. So I use that to get my attention. Another thing you could do is if you do multiple takes of each specific point, triple clapping after the good take. You'd be like, oh, that's the one I want to use. Triple clap, so when you're editing and you see a couple different takes of each one, you know, okay, the one that has the triple clap right after it, that's the one I'm always gonna keep. We've been outsourcing our wedding editing to Wanderlust for years, and it has by far been the best business decision we've ever made. For years, I fought the idea of outsourcing because every company I had found up until that point had either been too expensive to be realistic, or they just didn't meet the quality expectations that I had for my films. Until we found Wanderlust. Wanderlust was able to edit all of our wedding films at a price that made sense for our price point and at a quality that I was super, super happy with. And the process is super simple. You just choose the type of film you need edited, answer some specific questions about your project, and send over the footage. Everything is managed from a streamlined portal where you can chat with the Wanderlust team with any specific questions you might have, manage your revisions, and so on. Their turnaround times are quick and they have never missed a deadline. If you feel like your editing backlog is holding you back, from living your life or growing your business, you need to give Wonderlust a try. Thank you again to Wonderlust for sponsoring today's video. If you want to save $50 on your first edit with Wonderlust, simply click on the link in the description below and you can try them out to see what it's all about. So ultimately, the goal is to come up with a finished product, and that obviously happens in editing. So when you work in this style, what I'm describing to you, when you get your video back into your editor, basically what you're going to do is you're going to be editing solely, for the most part, for this A-roll section at least, based off of the waveforms. So what you'll be seeing is you'll see, there'll be like a lot of nothingness on the timeline, a lot of just like little random audio bits of you like rustling around or moving or talking to yourself. And then you'll see a pretty big chunk of much more intense, sustained audio, and those are the takes. Like that's where you're actually speaking to camera, delivering a line. Those are the parts that you're probably gonna wanna keep. And everything else in between, you can just cut out. So you can learn how to do this really quickly by cutting at the beginning of the talking portion, zipping all the way to the end of that big audio chunk that you can see on your timeline, cutting from there, going to the next one, and then I use hotkeys on my keyboard, so it's gonna be Q is gonna be to ripple delete back, and that's gonna cut you back. So basically you keep doing this really quickly over and over and over again, and you can really quickly shrink down, maybe 30 minutes of talking down into 15, 20 minutes of actual you delivering stuff to camera. And then from there, you essentially have all of your different points broken out in different clips that you can now rearrange. You can delete an entire section. You can keep half of a section. You can do whatever you want, but at least you have it now much more portioned out. And it's much easier for you to start moving things around and rearranging things if necessary. And then that's it. Once you cut out all the bad takes and all the stuff that you don't like, and maybe if you had some rambling, you can cut out certain sections here and there. Next thing you know, you end up with a nice, hopefully, however long you want your video to be, 12, 15 minute long video, whatever it ends up being, of just all of the good A-roll, right, of you speaking to camera. And then to finish, all you need to do is add B-roll on top. So I'm gonna make an entire separate video about shooting B-roll, how I shoot B-roll, how I know what B-roll to get, all that good stuff. But basically you just like lay the B-roll on top of your A-roll, you add in some graphics, add in some little, razzle dazzle here and there, and you end up with a final video. But the most important thing and the place to start, and where I start all of my videos, is with that A-roll. So hopefully this is helpful. If you've made a lot of videos like this in the past, this may be something new to you, but you also, maybe you're making videos and you're thinking that everyone makes these videos in one big long take. And the truth is that's just not the best way to do it. It's very hard to be concise and succinct. What's the right word? Words are hard. It's very hard to be concise when you are just trying to speak for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes at a time. Break it down into smaller chunks, write a good outline, take the time to write a really good outline, go through your outline point by point by point. It'll make your editing faster, it'll make the whole process faster, and it'll make your videos that much better. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions or anything else you'd like to see about creating YouTube videos in the future, please leave a comment down below. If you have anything else you'd like to see, any recommendations for different topics, I'd love to hear them. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more just like this, and we'll see you next time. Bye.